Hey everyone, it's Steve Severs for Bionic Buzz. We're here at San Diego Comic-Con 2024. It's going to be an amazing time. Now, before we get started, please help us out by hitting that subscribe button. Now, let's go see who we can talk to. All right, Bear, here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passion. Where did your passion for music came from that led you on this amazing musical journey? Was it a certain album, a certain artist, or something that was just natural for you as a child?
For me, I grew up listening to film scores. So I was watching movies like Back to the Future and Beetlejuice and Star Wars, and then a little bit older, I'm watching Aliens, I'm watching The Abyss, and these stories like transport me away, and then I'd listen to the music, and I would think, I want to do that. And then at the same time, I'm listening to music that feels very cinematic, but it's not. It's not from a movie, but like Queen, Pink Floyd, Guns N' Roses. When I heard November Rain, I was like, oh, that's film music. Right? So I think as an adult, I started putting all these things together where it's like, I love movie music. I love writing music for film and television and games. But I also love metal and rock. And I mean, it's great, right? It just feels so dynamic and emotional. And that's why I kind of put it all together. And I made this concept album called The Singularity, which feels a bit like my soundtracks, but it also feels a bit like all that like great rock that I grew up listening to, and it even has some of those people on it. I mean, Slash is on the record.
Exactly. I was going to say, what was it like working with him?
Dude, it was a dream come true, right? Like, there's a track on my record called Escape from the Machines that I wrote when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
And my original version is my buddy in high school playing the guitar. It's on my record, but it's Slash playing the guitar. The same part that I wrote when I was 15, right?
Yeah.
So it was amazing. I mean, I knew a number of people in the rock community, Serge Tankian from System of a Down and a few others. So they were the first people I reached out to where I said, here's a song I wrote. Like, is this any good? Would you want to sing this? And everybody got excited about it. And that gave me the encouragement, I think, to go, well, Serge likes it. So, Scott Ian was on it from Anthrax.
Wow. Yeah,
and then I was like, well, why don't I ask some other folks I don't know? So I reached out to so many other people, and Slash, Corey Taylor, Rufus Wainwright, and Kim Thale from Soundgarden, Jens Kidman from Meshuggah. I mean, after a while, I was like, I'm just going to make my dream list, and then just see if I can find a way to send them a track. And one by one, all these people came on board, man. So that was like a dream come true,
I got asked about Kim from Soundgarden because to me, I'm a grunge kid at heart. Like, my passion for music came in 1991, when I was 11 years old, seeing Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV. My mind was blown. I never really got into music up to that point, but then after that, I was like just hooked. So what was it like working with him?
Well, it was incredible. And first of all, what year were you born?
79.
What month were you born?
September.
All right, I'm February.
Yeah, okay.
And I grew up near Seattle.
Oh.
So it's like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana. I was at the epicenter of all this. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know. But I mean, I loved grunge, and in a weird way, it was almost like the opposite of Guns N' Roses, which I also loved.
Yeah.
But I mean, working with Kim, what I love about Kim Thale from Soundgarden, this is a guy who played on Black Hole Sun. Black Hole Sun is such a significant piece of music in guitar that when you get, guitar effects units and amp modelers, there's always a preset that basically implies this is the Black Hole Sun sound, right? You know what I mean? It's so iconic. You hear that tremolo. But it's Kim, it's his hands, it's the way he thinks. We met up through Brendan Small from Metalocalypse, and I was talking to him about being on the record, but I realized I didn't even get to ask him about being on my record for like 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Because we were just nerding out about science fiction and comic books.
So cool.
Turns out he's like the biggest nerd ever. And we were talking about Foundation and Battlestar Galactica and even Lord of the Rings and all these things that I've done. And, he's just almost like a kindred spirit, right? It's incredible. But to be able to work with him on my record, he added something so unique. He's on a couple of tracks, and I know when you hear him, you'd be like, oh my God, that's Kim, right? Because he's just got that sound. So that was part of the fun of it, where I'm working with somebody like him, and I'm working with Slash, and all these other incredible people, and I want them to sound like them. Right? So I want to write something. I'm using the skills that I've developed over the last 30 years writing music to write something where it's like, that's going to be good for Kim. That's going to be good for Slash. And then it was incredibly validating, right, to be able to get in touch with them and send it to them and have them go, yeah, I can do that. You know, it felt great, man. It felt really good.
When does the album come out?
Album just came out.
Okay.
So it's called The Singularity. It's streaming everywhere. It's got a companion piece graphic novel from Image Comics, which is also available now. But it's like a big swing double record filled with about 30 guest artists, and anybody that likes, you know, God of War or Battlestar Galactica or Lord of the Rings, any of these kind of big epic stories that I've been lucky to be a part of, I think they might really dig The Singularity.
I love it. It's two of my passions together, comic books and music, man. Well, pleasure, man. Keep up the amazing work.
Thanks.
All right?
Take care, man.
Well, I'm very excited to see this because I'm a huge music nerd and a huge comic book fan. So what was it like working on this? You know?
Well, it was amazing because it allowed me to, in a sense, create from a very different starting point. I usually work just with scripts, just text with indications of how the panels of a comic book page should be or where the story goes. But in this case, it was both. It was a script and also a music track from Bear's album. So you kind of, to me, it was like a very intense experience because of that, because I was getting inspiration and instructions, if you want to call it, from two different sources, sources of emotional fuel, if you will, to create.
So here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passion. Where did your passion for comic books kind of come from, led you on this amazing journey? Was it a certain issue or something that was just natural for you as a child?
No, it was kind of natural. I grew up in a home filled with art books and comic books and all sorts of books, and also records, lots of records. Because my dad is a musician, and both my parents loved art in different styles. So it was very natural to me, and there were like European comic books at home, Tintin and Asterix, and then funny books like the humor and traditional comic books, superheroes. All of that was present, and I suppose I got very early on into reading all of this, and kind of like you absorb the language. Even before you learn to read and write, you first get to the images in comic books, and it's like a helper for developing and reading a habit, or I don't know, or a sort of visual, let's call it sort of visual education, and then in years it slowly transformed for me into a passion and a profession in the end.
Nice. Anything else in the works allowed to talk about coming up?
Well, currently I have two big graphic novels out, which are Coda from Boom Studios, Part 1 and 2, which I recommend people. It's fantasy theme. And then Step by Bloody Step, Image books, comic books. It's also a fantasy story, completely different without any words. It's a silent comic book story. Yes, it's a very special, it was very difficult to make. And with my usual writing partner, Simon Spurrier, we're preparing a new graphic novel, experimental in nature, narratively experimental, for next year. And but I cannot say much about that.
Okay. Well, where can we follow your journey going forward on social media so when you can't talk more?
It's just my name, Matias Bergara, on Twitter, Instagram, X, whatever. I just use my name.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Have a good one. All right. So what was it like working on the lyrics for that one song?
It was really cool. It was really awesome that Bear trusted me
Oh,
with
yeah?
that. But then again, he's familiar with my writing, so I think he would. I think he knew that I was not going to deliver something that was totally whack. So.
So what is the song about, and where did you find inspiration? You know?
Right, so the song is called Antikythera Mechanism, which is an ancient computer that was found, yes, deep in the ocean near Athens, I think.
Wow.
And for a long time, people didn't really know what it was. But then they figured out that basically it was like an old astrolabe. It was like an old, essentially an ancient computer that had the capacity to calculate, the movements of stars and planets and dates and things like that. And no technology had ever been found like that, of that age. And so, yeah, he tasked me with, okay, so write some lyrics about that. And I was like, okay, what can I do? It's like, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not gonna like drop some information that nobody knows. But what I can do is I can get inside the psyche of this ancient computer, and I can be it. I can say, if I was this computer and I knew all these things, I was this esteemed creation that was the height of technology, and then I was lost for thousands of years under the ocean. What did I experience? What did I see? What did I think? And coming from there, I was able to craft a song.
That's deep, and not just depths of the ocean, but wow, you know, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear it. So, can you tell us some of the lyrics you wrote?
It starts, "You've come for the answer. These gears set to pave heaven's way. These skinned bones of Athens." And then I forgot the next part after that.
My mind's blown. Wow.
Now I want to. Oh man, he's gonna be mad that I forgot the second.
We'll leave him a little tease so people go check it out. So, yeah. So here at Bionic Buzz, we're all about people's passions. Where'd your passion for music kind of come from to lead you on this amazing journey?
Well, I grew up with, my father is a singer and a songwriter, so I just grew up with music all around me. And my mom is a painter, and she's been a screenwriter for her whole life, too. So the whole idea of storytelling and trying to get into the intricacies of emotion and through the multi-layered, thing that is human existence, that was just that kind of quandary about life was just kind of all around my house. And a great way to explore that is through music.
Absolutely. I love music. Anything else in the works allowed to talk about before I let you go?
Sure. Let's see. Oh, I have a poetry reading. If anyone's interested, it's on Zoom. It's on August 1st. It's on a site on easiest to get through Facebook.
I was gonna say, what's your social media?
This particular one is on Lime Square Poets.
Okay.
But also social media on Instagram. I'm just Rhea Z Yarbrough. That's my Instagram. I will definitely be talking about it.
Okay.
Aside from that, I'm doing a collaboration with a painter named Pam Douglas. She's painting my poetry, and then I'm going to be writing songs using that poetry. So sometime next year, we're going to be doing a big installation, which will also be a concert. So
that's amazing. I love that. I can't wait to check that out. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. Keep up the amazing work.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, I am very excited for this because it combines two of my favorite passions, music and graphic novels. How did you get involved in it and find out about it?
Yeah. So Bear has been one of my closest friends for about a decade at this point. We met at San Diego Comic-Con in 2009. Yeah. We've worked together on different projects over the years. He was kind enough to score one of my big short films a few years back called The Shadow Hours. When Bear decided to do the album, I remember him describing it to me as like, I'm going to do the equivalent of a creator-owned book. So this was his big concept album that brought all of his passions together and all of his different genre loves together. It's called The Singularity. I'm talking about it now. Big rock and heavy metal concept album, but it was important to him that he have a narrative component. So I had just started my company, Black Market Narrative. We had kicked off the Massive Verse with Radiant Black and some of our other titles. And so I brought in a writer, Mat Groom, who does INFERNO GIRL RED with us. And Matt listened to the album, and he developed the entire story that gives a narrative to the track order of the album itself. So it's about the death of a multiverse, and there's 15 different artists that work on this, all illustrating different chapters that also that are different lives the main characters reincarnating through as the multiverse is being wiped out by a villain, spoiler, entropy. But ultimately, this character is trying to get back to what's most important to him and a life and a family that is no longer there, while he's also having to assess kind of his own place and our place as a species. And by species, I mean life itself. In the grander scheme of the universe. Like I said, it's a big, bold, ambitious story that ultimately gets down to all the different things that make us human. So it's a very outside the box kind of storytelling approach.
That's kind of like your MO.
That's kind of my thing. Yeah. I'm very big on immersion. So there's nothing more immersive than, you know, an album and a graphic novel that go like this together.
Are you a fan of music yourself? Did you go to concerts? You listen to bands or anything?
I'm a huge fan of music, yeah. I actually grew up, I'm a musician myself. I grew up playing the trumpet until I was about 25, classical and jazz. It seems like every project I do has a really strong musical component as well. I actually just co-wrote a book called Deep Cuts with one of my frequent collaborators, Joe Clark. We were nominated for an Eisner this year for it. And it's 6 different stories that each take place in a different decade of American history and jazz, and ultimately tell one big narrative journey across 60 years.
There's always some musician influences the next album. I love that.
Yeah, and you know, I've been saying today, as I've been talking to people, like I've written more books to film scores than I could even count. A lot of scores of Bears over the years, so I'm constantly listening to new things, and I always have music playing while I'm working, or pretty much 24/7 in AirPods these days. So.
Cool. Well, where can people get the graphic novel and listen to the music?
So the best place to go for the graphic novel, so you can go to Bear's website, bearmccreary.com. You can also go to blackmarket.la. That's our Black Market Narrative site, and we have the graphic novel listed there and different purchase options for it. And the album itself is also available through all the streaming platforms, as well as on vinyl from Mutants and CD on from Mutant as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you again.
You too.
Take care.